We got brand new information from newly released Pentagon documents about UFOs. Apparently, many people who've seen UFOs report having been burned or having brain difficulties afterward. Kind of an amazing report. That's straight ahead. People who ask questions about UFOs are written off as deranged conspiracy mongers. Oh, shut up about UFOs. Then we learned about something called the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program. It was an operation at the Pentagon, cloaked from public scrutiny, that studied UFO sightings for a very long time, and it was completely real, because those sightings are real. The Defense Intelligence Agency has just released that program's 2010 report on UFOs, and among other things, the document tells us that the government can prove that UFO sightings have caused radiation burns, paralysis, and brain damage. The report also says that some people who saw UFOs experienced, quote, perceived time suspension. They also saw ghosts and other spirits. In all, that report lists 42 cases of adverse effects from medical files and another 300 adverse effects from unpublished cases, whatever that means. Lou Elizondo knows what it means because he used to run the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program. We're happy to have him on tonight. Lou, thanks so much for coming on. So, I mean, this was a feature of people's firsthand accounts going back 50 years to the 60s. You know, I saw this thing and I had these physical effects. I guess that turns out to be real. Tell us about these effects.
Yeah, Tucker, actually, it's even more than that. This is not, you know, the notion of where, let's say, grandma saw some lights in the backyard. These are military eyewitnesses. In some cases, they're fighter pilots or they're security personnel that have come up close and personal with a UAP, or I guess in the vernacular, UFO. And in some cases, they have sustained some sort of medical trauma, something that can be looked at and quantified and qualified and measured as some sort of biological effect that they didn't suffer these consequences until they came up close and personal to a UFO. And by the way, let me just say, this isn't pseudoscience. You know, for you're absolutely right in your intro. For many years, we've been told, oh, you know, this is silly and whatnot, and this topic is really not to be taken seriously. Look, I was part of the program. I ran the program for a better part of 8 years on this topic. It is absolutely real. And now, finally, because of the pressure put by Congress and people like you in the media, finally, our government is beginning to become more transparent about this topic and tell the truth about this topic in a way that I wasn't at liberty to have the conversation 4 years ago when you and I first started talking with each other.
Yeah, so I'm getting the idea that when they don't want to hear what you have to say, they call you a conspiracy monger. So these physical effects, some of which are serious, does the Pentagon believe these were intentionally inflicted on people, or they were just byproducts of the experience?
You know, Tucker, that's a fantastic question. Look, the bottom line is, if I've never seen a microwave oven before, and let's say I didn't know how to use it, and I happen to put my hand or unfortunately, let's say my head too close to a microwave oven when it's being turned on, chances are there's going to be some sort of negative biological consequence. Same holds true if I go to let's say an average airport. I just took a 737 today, and if I'm in the cockpit or I'm in the aircraft, there's no real threat. But if I stand behind the engine when the engine is, you know, firing up, chances are I'm going to get burned. I'm going to lose my hearing. There are medical consequences. The question is it deliberate? Is it a product of the technology? Yes. Or is it a product of something else? And we think right now, and again, let me just preface, preliminarily speaking, it's probably just a consequence of the advanced technology.
Final question, I've asked you this before, but in the face of the mounting evidence, it doesn't really seem plausible to suggest these are aircraft from foreign militaries at this point, does it?
Look, we've been looking at this for a long time, and if anyone seems to suggest that China or Russia back in 1950s had the ability to travel at hypersonic speeds and do 90-degree turns in midair after doing 8,000 miles an hour, then, you know, you're looking at the greatest intelligence failure this country has ever had, eclipsing that of 9/11, by the way, by an order of magnitude. So no, I think it's fair to say at this point, suffice it to say, this is probably not some sort of adversarial technology we're dealing with.
Right. It's not human. So we should let that marinate for a minute and think about what that means. Not that I can get my head around it, but I appreciate all the work you've done on this. Lou Elizondo, thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Tucker.
Pentagon this week releasing over 1,500 pages worth of previously classified documents generated by the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, which is the largest military-funded program in history devoted to studying the phenomena of UFOs. Some pretty incredible stuff is inside all those pages, including a report of the health impact on humans who have had paranormal experiences or been in contact with UFOs. The report says UFO sightings can leave witnesses suffering from burns, hair loss, headaches, nausea, insomnia, and more. Jeremy Corbell is investigative documentary filmmaker and editor of Extraordinary Beliefs, and he joins us now. Jeremy, good to see you again. What did you make of this week's document dump? What's the big headline that came out of this?
Yeah, look, this is really interesting. Now people are catching up. So contrary to what the New York Times reported and other outlets kind of parroted, the government-funded UFO program that received the $22 million, that was called OSAP, not ATIP. ATIP came after. So with these reports, it's one of the many things that were generated out of this $22 million. They had 50 full-time employees. They generated over 200 different reports, but this is 38 technical reports that are defense intelligence reference documents. One of those reports is pretty haunting. It deals with the biological effects of close proximity to UFOs. So that was what was picked up now recently by the media, but this isn't that new. George Knapp, he released a number of these prior to when they just came out through FOIA. So it's been out there, but it's very shocking what's contained in these DIA documents.
Well, and tell us, I mean, these people say that they came in contact with a UFO. I mean, this is a Pentagon report, right? And they say that, and then they have these different symptoms. Tell us about them.
Right. So it is very shocking in that out of these 38 reports or these technical reports, that this one focuses on biology. What they found is that having close proximity to these UFOs or UAPs, that there's extreme forms of radiation burn, that you have mental and cognitive dissociative issues. It goes down onto a cellular level where the body is affected. Now, it is suspected that this is not an overt act of hostility, but rather this is some sort of interaction with the advanced propulsion systems that the Pentagon is just furiously trying to figure out how they operate.
And just let me just interject, just for people that don't follow it as close as you and I do, these propulsion systems we're talking about, when they see these UFOs, and we've had naval aviators see these things, and they move in a way that makes no sense. The way that we propel things, they can move, they can stop in midair and go back and forth and up and down in ways that we can't figure out as the most advanced country in the world. We can't figure it out. And you're saying that people are coming into contact with that, and they're having these weird adverse health effects.
That's one of the aspects they're coming in contact with that was studied by the Defense Intelligence Agency and the Department of Defense. The majority of these papers are about aerospace, aviation tech, warp drive, gravity waves, metamaterials, all sorts of high-tech, futuristic projections. And the reason why is because these things outpace, outmaneuver, and outperform our greatest war machines. This is something we need to know from a national security standpoint, and our Pentagon is on it.
You've had scientists sending messages. They've sent it in 1974. They sent messages out into space. A new team from NASA wants to send on an updated message and perhaps a map, I guess, on how to find us in the universe. That's a little scary because we don't know what these people might, or these aliens may want, right? 10 seconds.
Well, we don't know what these are, but we also don't need to worry about that. Our government has admitted that UFOs are real, that they're here, and that they represent an advanced machinery wherever they are from. So it doesn't matter about sending anything out. Whatever it is, it's been here a long time.